Okay, hi everybody. I'm live, I think, on Facebook and Instagram. So if I'm looking up and down, it's because I'm looking at two cameras. So, hello. Have you noticed I've gone dark again? This is my natural colour. Well, obviously not my natural colour, but it would be my natural colour. I haven't been this dark for a long time. So yeah, I'm loving it. Really nice to be back to dark because I was going quite funny colour. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk to you about today is blood sugar balance. You've heard me talk about this. If you've been in the group for a while, if you've followed me for a while, you'll know that I talk about blood sugar a lot, okay? A lot. And I talk about it not just in relation to weight and weight loss and belly fat, but also I talk about it in relation to hormones and hormonal balance. And so I wanted to talk to you about it a little bit more and explain, for those of you who don't know, or perhaps you haven't been following me for a while, or you've forgotten, or you don't understand it, I just want to talk to you about what it is, how it works, because it is so critical to your overall health. I can't stress enough how important it is, and it's the foundation of everything that I teach in my program, in the Revitalise method, which I run for women in their 40s going through perimenopause. It is the foundation. In fact, it's the first thing that we focus on before we get into hormones, hormone balance and everything else, because without it, you can't lose weight. You can't balance hormones, and so it's absolutely critical for how you feel. Stress levels, stress and blood sugar have an interactive, they interact because the cortisol of stress, the stress hormone, and insulin, the blood sugar balancing hormone, have an interaction together. So let me explain a little bit about what blood sugar is. So the only thing that affects your blood sugar or blood glucose, I use the terms interchangeably, is carbohydrates. Okay, so carbohydrates affect your blood sugar, right? Now, different carbohydrates will affect your blood sugar in different ways. So the way that it works is that each food that contains carbohydrate will affect the blood sugar to an extent depending on the speed at which that glucose from the food is released into the blood as blood sugar, okay, or sugar in the blood. Now, the more complex the carbohydrates, the slower it is, the longer it takes for that food to break down. And so the speed at which and the amount of which glucose is dumped into the blood will be dependent on the complexity of the carbohydrate. So if you are eating, for example, a teaspoon of sugar, for example, so say you put a teaspoon of sugar in your tea, that is going to turn into glucose in the blood extremely quickly. There's very little metabolism required, right? So it's going to spike your blood sugar very quickly. Now, something like a bag of sweets, which are very high in sugar, so say, like Haribo, for example, high in sugar, and it's a very refined type of sugar. It's going to turn to glucose in the blood very quickly. Something like oats, which are a complex carbohydrate with fibre, especially if you have whole rolled oats, they turn to glucose in the blood much more slowly because the release of that glucose will take much longer because the body has to, the gut has to break that down before that glucose is released. And so it's a much more steady release. And then we can use it. Okay, we can use it because we're only getting a small amount, and obviously we need glucose for energy, we need it for lots of different systems. The brain, for example, energy, muscles, everything. But when we get this massive dump of sugar, say we eat a bag of Haribo, we get so much glucose released into the body and into the blood that there's nowhere for it to go. And so the body then releases insulin. And insulin is it's the hormone that is used to take the blood sugar or the sugar out of the blood and into the cells. Okay? And it works like the key to the cell door. So without insulin, glucose can't enter the cells. So we talk about insulin as like a key to the door. And so it takes hold of the glucose, opens the cell door, unlocks it, takes the glucose in. Now, the thing is that if you are going to be using that energy straight away, that's great. You're going to use it and there's not going to be so much of a problem. But most of us aren't using it, and we're not using the amount that we're eating, and therefore insulin's second role is as a fat storage hormone, and it stores that glucose as fat. And there lies the problem, because our diets are so high in refined carbohydrates, okay? And that's what causes the problem, is that we have too much glucose that we're not using, and it's getting stored as fat. Now, the problem then is, of course, how much should we be eating of carbohydrates? And, there's a big push towards keto diets. Keto will work for some people in the short term. I don't believe it's a long-term solution. I don't think it's very good for women in their 40s going through perimenopause. It's probably works better for women once they've hit menopause. More women can tolerate it, but in perimenopause it can cause a lot of problems, which I'm not going to go into. But keto, for me, it's useful for reversing diabetes and things like that. But for women who are in their 40s, who are wanting to lose weight, who are wanting to balance their hormones, I don't believe it's the answer. Getting the right amount of carbohydrates and the right type of carbohydrates balanced with the other macro foods, which are proteins and fats, is the answer. And that's what I teach in the Revitalize method. That's exactly what I take you through, as well as helping you to balance your hormones, as well as helping you to deal with stress, to fix your gut, because your gut, of course, is going to be part of the picture. And we go through a whole process. And blood sugar is the foundation of everything. And of course, I teach much more about this in my program. So I hope that's helpful. If you would like to know more, if you're interested, if this resonates, if it's starting to click and you're thinking, okay, that makes sense, then reach out to me, drop me a message, send me a direct message, a private message on Instagram or on Facebook, and let's chat. And I can help you with more specifics, and we can have a chat and see whether the program would be right for you or not. Okay, that's it. I will see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.